To the Fantasy Minecraft Let's Play series. In this series, I'm going to be demonstrating the Fire Mage. I wanted to make a kind of a 101 Fire Mage video. It is by no means comprehensive. I'm still learning a lot about this mod pack. But if you're looking to get started, and it took me a while to figure spells out, and I kind of want to give you guys like a half hour down and dirty on the Fire Mage. So the mage is obviously dedicated to magic casting, and right off the bat, they're immune to poison, weakness, and slowness. You were never trained in combat, so you have 3 less hearts. So conversely, less health. If you're playing a hardcore world, that'll probably be a real big deficit. Their next perk is you can shoot a fireball in the direction of your facing, and we'll kind of go through that spell in a little bit. It has a pretty lengthy cooldown, but it is pretty devastating. And then Water Walk. I've honestly never used this. You can hold the heart of a sea and walk on water. And since you're only trained in magic, you're very weak in any sort of combat. This definitely comes into play early in the game, but late game with better weapons, you can still hack and slash a little bit at like trash mobs. So let's jump right into the mage origin. Alright, so you've loaded in, you got past your little loading screen, you've selected your origin, you have a fire mage. Perfect. Let's go. So early on, right, we're just gonna do Minecraft stuff. As you notice, you don't have a whole ton of hearts, and when you start in this world, you're probably starting in... This is actually a pretty normal biome compared to some of the ones you can start in. But notice that, when you're trying to chop a tree down, the mod that's installed has you kind of just hammer at one spot and then the whole tree will fall. Let me lower this. Anyway, so you've loaded in, you have your mage, you can do all your normal Minecraft stuff, but we're not really going to focus too much on that. There's a ton of things to explore, and I would highly recommend you just explore. Like, just these worlds are friggin' beautiful. Like, I'm still, I just wander around here and I just get blown away by the scenery. But let's get right off the bat and craft us a pickaxe, get some stone. The normal Minecraft grind. You do start with a couple of... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. You do start with a couple of books. You can explore those. One of them is a quest book. That's a really good place to go if you're looking at what to do in this mod. It's kind of very helpful. In fact, I'll go into that a little bit because it has specific sections. So right when you go in, you can open up this little menu on the side here. You can go right into chapter 1 and right off the bat just grab a log and it gives you a quest. Make a crafting table, gives you some levels. I save my levels for later. One of the things with the mage is levels will help get you spells later on, and we'll talk about the spell system. So I kind of don't activate any of the ones that give you levels until I'm ready to use those levels. Mining, you can go in here and you can get rewards. But the main reason I bring this up is the chapters kind of guide you through what you want to do. Like chapter 1 is your basic Minecraft stuff. Chapter 2 is some of the bosses you can fight. 3 is like the Nether, and then kind of so on. But then down here, if you look at weaponry, it kind of helps you understand a little bit about what is out there. So if you come right here, you can immediately see, oh, there's wands. And you go up here and it's like, oh, there's fire wands. All right, I want to be a fire mage, right? So what do I need to do this? And you pop it up. You're like, oh, a stick, nether bricks, right? So obviously we're going to want to get the nether at some point. So this is very helpful to kind of figure out where you want to go, right? Your basic fire wand is just a gold ingot and gunpowder. And there's actually an even more basic one before that, which is just a stick and charcoal. So that's kind of going to be our first goal, just to get into a little bit of fire casting, is that stick and charcoal. But obviously we want stone tools before we really do anything else. And just like in normal Minecraft, we make a wooden pickaxe and it's immediately obsolete. So right off the bat, we wanted to be a fire mage, and now, boom. You take that, I got a wand. So now I have the ability to cast a spell. As you'll see in the side of my screen, the bottom left, now I have this thing that shows if I right click, I can cast a spell. Now it won't cast right now because I don't have a target, so we will need to find a target for that. But there we go, like a spell is something that all of a sudden, very early on in this game, it took me days to figure that out. There was nothing very obvious. So now you know that you can do that right from day one. Let me show you the one thing that you start off with right off the bat. So we kind of talked about how you get your fire wand and you can right click to cast it. But before you get any wand whatsoever, because your origin is fire mage, you can cast a fireball. And it looks something like that, right? It almost reminds me of like a gassed fireball because it has some kind of explosiveness to it. It's pretty volatile. I used it in a wooden temple structure at one point, and the whole thing burned to the ground. Probably wasn't the smartest move. I do keep fire tick on. I don't really change it. Fire tick is on in the default settings, but I haven't really changed any of them. But as you notice in the above your food bar, that's your spell recharging. So the casting delay on it is pretty hefty. It's an instant cast when you press the button, whatever you have it mapped to. I have it mapped to one of the mouse buttons. But you can, I believe it default maps to either G or H or something like that maybe. But anyway, so let's test out this fire wand, right? So you just use your right click, you keep it targeted on the pig, and as you can see, it lights him on fire. Kind of where your experience usually goes, you see a blue bar. That blue bar keeps going down, and now you see it going back up. That's your mana. So mana is a resource that you have. You can get enchantments which will affect the charge rate and the total amount, but your mana goes down every time you cast a spell, unless you're using fire runes, which is something I'll show you later. But your mana is something you'll have to manage as time goes on. But I really wanted to show you that because you can see from that initial spell cast that your spells aren't that great. So let's talk a little bit about that. So if you press K, it will bring you up this tree. And this is your skill tree. Now there's three major directions you can go: Path of the Wayfarer, Path of the Warrior, and Path of the Initiate. So I end up going Path of the Initiate with the intent of getting to Path of the Wizard. So from here up to here, there's a whole bunch of nodes that give plus spell critical damage, plus all spell damage. You could get attack speed, movement speed, spell haste. So there's all types of buffs in here. So as you can see, as you get these points, and you get these by killing things, and it seems pretty separate from those green orbs that you normally get for experience. One thing I've noticed is you seem to get the experience immediately upon the kill. You don't actually need to pick something up. And as you fight more guys, you get more of those experience and unlock more skill points. So the goal is progress your skills. You get stronger as the game goes on, and you'll see initially, it says level 1, like you start, and it goes based on how far you are from spawn. You start off killing these level 1s. Oh my god, a little snail. Oh, this reminds me of Grian from Hermitcraft. Grian and Gem's little snails. Oh, that's great. I've never seen those before. Like I said, I'm still relatively new to this mod pack, but just trying to make some kind of a video to help people with some of these basics, which took me way longer to learn. So there we go. There's a skill, right? So now you have a skill, so you can go in here and you can select a starting point, right? And these are mutually exclusive. I don't know if there's any way to unlock multiple later, but if you want to go School of the Initiate or Path of the Initiate, it prevents you then from also going to the Warrior, also grabbing up the Wayfarer and getting these kind of rather big boosts right off the bat. So, we're going to be a Fire Mage, we're going to go here. And our intent is to come up here. And as we get more, we pick our path to get us there. So as you'll notice, I just put a spell point, and now you can see that the ones that are connected to it show up in more of this gray color, and that's the direction I can go from here. So every time you unlock another one, the ones that you can unlock after that show up kind of like this. Now let's just say hypothetically I wanted to progress up here. I'm going to do it by coming here and then up here. Some of these nodes that you can see that are surrounded by other skill point type of things are like special passive abilities. I will tell you that I always get Empower and Attuned. They kind of synergize with each other, and I really like the way they work. They don't really have any negative drawbacks. Like you'll see some of these, your spell damage is reduced, but your critical damage is increased, or spell critical chance is increased, but max health is reduced. So look at those, see what you think. I'm not a theory crafter. I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't pick there. But yeah, so that's kind of your basic start to the Fire Mage. You get your wand, you get your initial fireball spell, you start along your spell path, and realistically, you're doing kind of normal Minecrafty stuff. Probably going caving. See, like this guy will mess me up. So boom, my fireball got him, right? So not terrible. It kind of trapped him in that little hole. The fire ticks got him down. I could have pulled my wand out and shot him a little bit, but with no armor and the minimal amount of hearts that you have, you definitely want to be careful. All right, so you survived your first night. Maybe you did a little bit of caving. I personally did not leave too much of my starting area yet. I just did a little resource gathering of, I happen to be on this nice little like stony shore seeming area. So there was some surface iron, some surface copper, and if you ever find a statue like this, you'll see there's a chest inside, and I found some gold. And I killed a couple creepers at night, so that is a good point to show you that one of the things you can do, oops, nope, wrong recipe, is you can make a fire wand. So if you compare this to your starter wand, oh, I didn't even actually look at the fact that we rolled such a terrible roll on this, but this has a +1 to fire spell power, cast Scorch. This has +2. So, oh my god, another crap roll. Anyway, one thing to note in this game is that different rarities you can roll different rarities. So see, this is common, this is rare, this is rare, this is uncommon, and they have different modifiers based on the rarity that you roll. So it can be very beneficial to, if you have the resources, keep re-rolling when you're crafting until you get something that is mythic or a legendary. At this point, I only had one gunpowder, so this is the fire one I'm stuck with. But it's kind of your next step in that progression, right? So at this point, you're still kind of using this the way you might use a bow early game. You're opening with this, but when you close distance, you're still using your sword. So continue progressing like you might in normal Minecraft. And once we get, maybe try to focus on getting some wool, as that's going to make one of your first armor sets you're probably going to want to make, which is these wizard kind of sets. Not this one, because this one you need blaze powder, but this one here, you need lapis and wool. And that's going to be kind of our first goal as a novice fire mage. So you can just kind of explore, I find, is the best thing to do. You do have your map, which will kind of show you some things in the area. So it looks like we may have a village of sort over here, so we're going to set that as our waypoint. This is probably a pillager castle. It's a probably good area to grind out some experience early on. There are some evokers and vindicators that you got to be careful with, but good place to get some early experience. So we're going to head up to this village and then head over to the castle. So this is a spellbinding table. Now if you surround this with books similar to an enchantment table, you put a book on here with some lapis, and that's how you kind of get your first spells. And these right here, so this is kind of like a wizard's shop. These are runes, and so you have, I believe, frost. This is definitely fire. This is arcane, and you can use these runes in place of mana to cast spells. So the runes will be consumed. Oh, look at that! So like I said, these villages are huge. So this is one of the items that we wanted in order to, that we wanted to build with wool. Boom, we just got it. So now we have a wizard hat, which gives us +1 armor, plus to arcane, plus to fire, plus to frost. Also some dig speed. I mean, this is sweet. You'll notice that the armor on it isn't great in comparison with the copper, which is slightly less than iron. It's pretty light, but I mean, your goal as spellcaster is not to be up close and personal, so hopefully, that's not something that should be a huge issue for you. But yeah, so check out all these houses. You never know what you're going to get, and some of the loot can actually be quite useful, especially early game. These places are sometimes have good loot too. The amethyst shards you need for later for crafting magical items, so always take those if you get them. What is that? I mean, is that gonna kill me? Can I fly that? What is that? A griffin? Oh my. Apparently you can fly it. I still don't have a saddle, but I think it likes me. My goodness. Amazing. Huh. So, so I just wanted to check out the spell power on this wand, and it is pretty bad. Alright, so now that you've got a little bit of a idea of the basics in a new world, I'm going to take you into a more advanced world and kind of show you a little bit of what I hesitate to say the word end game, as I haven't even got to the end yet. But later game Fire Mage might look like. We'll talk about some of the progression paths that you could choose from, and some of the skills, and a little bit more about creating spell books and that type of thing. So you kind of saw your basic wand, right? So what I wanted, the next thing I went for after my wand was the fire staff. The fire staff is something you need to go to the nether for, and I would get to the nether kind of as quickly as possible. Um, but once you get there, the blaze powder is kind of the hardest thing you need for it. Everything else is relatively easy, and it gives you just generally great bonuses for, I think, early on, in that it has um, +4 fire spell power, and unlike the +2 of the wand that we were using, and it can be upgraded to the netherite fire staff, which has then the +5. And this one rolled legendary, so it has plus to spell critical damage, plus to spell critical chance. I enchanted it, so it's become a very versatile weapon. Another thing I think you're probably going to want to go for is one of these spell blades. And these things kind of, you'll find them in chests. You can craft them. I personally never actually crafted one of these. They're, again, the blazes are your, kind of as a fire mage, you need blazes. So get to the nether, find a blaze spawner, waypoint it, or mark it, I should say, and just, you're going to farm that. You need a lot of blaze powder. Um, but again, not super hard to craft, just an iron sword and the blaze rod, and it will give you the spell blade, which is a nice sword for when guys get up in your face. It has a AoE kind of fire attack, which I'll show you later, but it kind of does this fire. Yeah, there you go. See that? Like everything around you. So if you're getting surrounded, it pushes people back. It's just a great little sword to have. That being said, when it comes to armor, you have a lot of options. So, you start with maybe your wizard robes, you move into your fire hat once you get your blaze powder. Um, but then after that, I think a lot of it's personal preference. Personally, I think the elite wizard set is probably your best bet. I had this. Um, it takes these magical ingots, which aren't super hard to craft. You can find all these items in the overworld. So I did have this set before I went into the nether, and they were not super hard to craft. All this stuff you can find in the overworld, and you make it with an iron helm. Outside of that, you could also do this elite battle mage set. I just am not super sure right now where the breaking point is for when percentage based damage becomes better than hard points. I'm guessing at this point the percentage probably is better, but I don't know. And I don't really know a way to view your stats to try to like theory craft that or figure that out. Outside of that, the armor set that I'm wearing is this Blazing Magister's chest piece and set. I'm wearing that because of the reabsorption, which if you notice I have these yellow hearts. Those regenerate regardless of hunger level, and when you are, you'll see later, I'll show you some combat, when you're a fire mage, the reabsorption, you're not getting hit all the time, so it comes into play pretty frequently. This set that I'm wearing, I needed a Rune Blaze ingot, where you need fire runes, blaze powder, copper, not super hard. Also, let's take a look at the fire runes. You can use these as mana, essentially, and super easy. Um, you can almost, as you see, create them with almost anything. Originally, I thought you needed blaze powder to make them. You don't. Just gunpowder, coal, charcoal, and some kind of stone will make them in some quantity. These weird things that drop sometimes, they'll make them. Blaze powder. So, yeah, I would make those. I tend to keep them in my backpack for boss fights. You know, if you're fighting normal trash mobs, you're not really depleting your mana at a quick enough rate where it really matters. You don't really run out of it. But if you're in a boss fight and you start casting spells or there's a ton of people around you, it might be something that is worth having on you. So I think the next thing we should talk about is the spell books. And that really simply is basically you just need a spellbinding table. All right, so if you only had, say, this staff on, you only have that basic Scorch ability, right? That's the ability that we were using before. It doesn't do a ton of damage, just really not good. You know, you don't want to spend your time playing with that. But as soon as you come to one of these spell tables, and you do not, I believe, need any of the bookshelves to see this part, but there is a ton of books that you have. Now, what all these do, I couldn't tell you. A lot of them, you know, unholy, I'm guessing something necromancy, ethereal, soulful, who knows. And what I do know is you scroll down a little bit and you get to fire techniques and tome of fire. So fire techniques is much more of your spellblade techniques. It's a little melee focused, a little more up close and personal. And then you have your tome of fire. So this is kind of what I would suggest for your traditional fire mage. As you'll see, there are a couple of spells, and then there's this one down here which maybe is a placeholder, but it never, I can never seem to access it or unlock it. I've had well over 40 levels with the lapis. It just doesn't do anything. But you can see some of these: fireball, fire breath, fire missile, meteor. They show you the level requirement, the lapis requirement, so on and so forth. So you can add your lapis. When you create your book, it has no spells in it. You add your lapis, and now you can add a couple of spells, right? Now, you can load out all of these spells if you had the levels and the lapis for it. I'm short on the lapis right now, but essentially once you have that, you would then take it. I'll take the full decked out one that I had, and you put it in your spellbook slot. Now you can see down in the bottom left corner, you have 4 spells you can choose from. So this kind of overrode that Scorch spell that I had down there, and now I can select from any of these 4. And if I scroll to my Spellblade, I can choose between my Spellblade Flourish spell and then the other 4 spells that come with my book. And the axe, which counts as a weapon, same thing. You can look and it will show you can cast spells from equipped spellbook. Now your pickaxe cannot, your shovel cannot, your axe can. So that's kind of how you know. Again, that is all done from that spellbinding table. So finding one of those pretty early on makes a huge difference for the fire mage. Even if you just get that level 10 fireball spell, you're in a much better way. Before we go, and I'll show you kind of all these spells in action, I just want to talk a little bit about your progression. Once you have unlocked the Path of the Wizard, you'll see that you can go into the wizard-specific skill tree, and from there you can choose between the 4 major elements: arcane, cold, lightning, and fire. And I chose fire. Obviously, we're a fire mage, and fire gives you this meteor ability, which calls down meteor showers, and then you can continue to upgrade that. It's up to you what you do with it. I chose not to do the greater meteor because I like the multiple small meteors. You don't need to choose a target. They just kind of rain down all around you. It's a good, like, if you need to run around and dodge, it's still casting meteors while you are focused on dodging or eating or healing or whatever you're trying to do. So I really enjoy having just the ability to call it down on nearby targets rather than a specific target. So once you cap out your skill tree, you can see here it's a total of 42 points. You unlock your Ascendancy tree. I chose Cataclysm. It seemed like a nice, good fire spell ability, and it causes several comets to descend in a line ahead of you, but it kind of locks you in place as you're casting that. So that is an X ability. If you see on the right-hand side of your item bar, you have your V, which is that fireball. I'm sorry, which is the fireball is your origin ability. The V is your basic skill tree ability, which rains down the meteors, your wizard skill tree, and the X is your ascendancy ability. So let's go into the Nether, and I'll show you guys a brief combat overview. So one of the nice things about my Nether spawn is there's this little piglin structure here, which has 3 piglin brute spawners in it. So it's a great place to come and kind of test your metal and check yourself out against a bunch of piglins. So right now I use my V ability, and you can see it's just raining down all types of meteors. I'm just running around, dodging. I don't really have to focus on it too much, and it will just hit them. Now, it's not obviously doing a ton of damage, but I don't really have to pay too much attention. I can really focus on evasion or whatever it might be. So I kind of start every battle off with that, and then, situationally dependent, pick my other abilities accordingly. So I'll show you the fireball. The fireball is just your directed. It can miss. It does have an AoE effect range. You can kind of backpedal while you're using it, but if they get too close to you, it kind of warps through them. So a lot of times I like to do a good backpedal and then try to cast it. Probably should have opened with that ability. That's my flamethrower ability. Scorch, I believe it's called. Super useful. It just shreds through people when they get up close. So that was kind of the fireball and the scorch. The other one I don't use a ton of is this magic missiles, which shoots kind of like homing missiles, but I don't know. Seems lackluster at best. I do, however, love the single meteor. It's much more powerful than your group of meteors, it seems. It's got a decent recharge on it, and you can cast it in tandem with those, and things just get hammered. So let me show you that Ascendancy ability. It kind of locks you in place, but then giant comets come down. Huge AoE. On bosses, it crushes them. Like, just an awesome ability. So, I would say that kind of wraps up the Fire Mage basics. If I think of other things to add along the line, I might do so, but I really think that'll give you a very effective jumping off point to kind of progress you through much quicker than if you're trying to do what I was and just figure it all out on your own, not having any idea. If you ever get lost, just go into your REI mod or whatever this thing is called and just type in fire and take a look at everything. See what it, see what it says. Like, oh, what's this? I like what this looks like. What do I need to make this? And that kind of will help you plan out your progression, right? So thanks for watching. I hope this was useful for somebody, and I'll see you next time. I kind of want a piano though. Oh my god, stop. Oh my god. What? Thunderstruck? Oh my god. This is so cool.
What sound is this? But at first it was Star Wars.
Yeah, I heard Star Wars on first.
What else sounds can you make?
There's all kinds of songs. There's the Cantina band from Star Trek, I mean Star Wars.
What else sounds can you make?